Welcome to Public Health on Call, a podcast from the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. I'm Joshua Sharfstein, Vice Dean for Public Health Practice and Community Engagement, and a former health commissioner here in Baltimore. Our goal is to bring evidence and experience to illuminate critical public health issues. If you have questions or ideas for us, please send an email to publichealthquestion@jhu.edu. That's publichealthquestion@jhu.edu for future podcast episodes.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Smith Rogers, producer of Public Health on Call. Today, we turn to climate change. Shelley Hearn, the Dean Sommer and Clagg Professor of Public Health Advocacy at the Bloomberg School, talks with Tiernan Sittenfeld, the Senior Vice President of the League of Conservation Voters. They discuss the passage of the climate change bill designed to reduce greenhouse gases by over 40%. Let's listen.
Hello, Tiernan Sittenfeld. I am so happy to be speaking to you just as we know the U.S. House of Representatives is about to pass a historic climate bill. One that, how long have you been working on this bill?
Well, hi, Shelley, and thanks for having this great conversation at this extremely exciting time. I have been working to combat the climate crisis and to protect our environment and public health for my entire career, which is longer than maybe I should admit at this point, but have really been focusing in earnest on passing a comprehensive climate change bill since before we failed to do so the last time around, which was in 2009, 2010. So suffice it to say, this is a really long time coming. It's long overdue. It's badly needed. And there's so much that we're excited about, even though this is not a perfect bill. We are really getting ready to celebrate when the House passes it and when the president signs it into law. And then, of course, we'll get right back to work.
Yes, I know you, and I know you will. So, do you like roller coaster rides?
I actually don't. I'm too much of a wimp, but this has been whiplash for sure.
There is nothing, I would never use the word wimp with you. Maybe on roller coasters, and we will not do that together. But this has been one crazy, long, challenging, twisting, upside down ride. I mean, most particular, this part with the Inflation Reduction Act. I would love for you to dig in for us a little bit about what's so important and why was this so challenging to get the climate portion into the reconciliation bill?
Well, what's in there is win-win-win. It's good for combating the climate crisis. It's good for really transitioning to 100% clean energy economy in the future once and for all. It's going to create good paying union jobs. It's going to rebuild communities in a way that's more equitable and just. So, it's a bit of a head scratcher why it has been so hard to do, but we're up against an incredibly well-funded fossil fuel opposition. And unfortunately, we're having to do this just with Democrats. All Republicans in Congress have opposed it. But it is so important for our climate. This is more than $370 billion with a B dollars in investment in climate solutions, in clean energy, in environmental justice, in good paying union jobs. It will put our nation on track to cut climate pollution by 40% by 2030. And this in and of itself is not enough to really address the climate crisis. We're going to have to keep fighting on all fronts, but it's hugely exciting. It includes things that are going to make people's lives better, save people money on their energy bills. It includes 10-year clean energy tax credits for things like wind and solar, for electric vehicles. It also includes a methane program to reduce methane emissions. When it comes to public health, there's so much that's so important in there. Obviously, this is all really connected, but there's funding for air quality monitoring. There's new environmental and climate justice block grants. There's a new program for that. There's actually a reinstatement of a tax on oil companies to fund cleanup of Superfund sites. I could go on and on and on, but I will pause there.
Well, it's an incredible list. And in particular, there are very few people in the public health world who are really being supported and funded to work on climate issues. And yet we know, according to an extraordinary amount of research, the Lancet just came out identifying the climate crisis as one of the most major public health issues. But there is really very few resources and people being invested in public health to work on these issues. So is this going to be the opportunity for public health to be supported to get into the fight?
I really think that there is such an opportunity. Obviously, public health and a clean, healthy environment and climate solutions are all inextricably linked. And the resources and the investments, the funding in this bill provides such an opportunity. And this is especially important when we think about Indigenous communities, communities of color, the frontline and fence line communities that have been not just on the front lines of being exposed to and harmed by the climate crisis, but have had to grapple with toxic pollution for decades. So we do think that there is such an opportunity. And in particular, we need to focus on centering environmental and racial justice as we move forward in the implementation of this bill. And to be honest, there are definitely provisions that we oppose to encourage and to actually incentivize and mandate more fossil fuel development. We oppose that. We will continue to fight that. But there is so much that is going to help us transition away from our dependence on dirty fossil fuels that has such a negative impact on public health.
So what would be really helpful to understand is, you alluded to this, 12 years ago, very similar efforts by the environmental and public health community went forward in trying to get major climate legislation passed, and it failed. So what happened in these intervening years, in a decade? What changed that made it successful to get this over the finish line?
Yeah, that's a really important question. And there's so much that's different now than our failure 12 years ago. And we really did work to learn from that failure and to change the way that we operate. And for one, we realized that the coalition that was working to advance that climate bill a dozen years ago wasn't nearly powerful enough, wasn't diverse enough, didn't hold our friends accountable. So I give so much credit to the coalition that has come together. It has been so exciting and important and impactful to work with environmental justice leaders, with labor leaders, with clean energy businesses. I also have to give so much credit to young people for the energy and the determination that they have brought to this fight, because obviously this is quite literally their future on the line. And then, of course, the impacts of the climate crisis are not some distant threat. They are a reality today. The fires, the droughts, the extreme heat, the floods, the intense storms, these are having deadly impacts on people's lives every day. And so I think the recognition of how devastating this is, and then also the fact that the solutions are win-win-win, and that the clean energy industry is really growing and needs to continue to do so, all of that has contributed to the fact that we have so many more elected officials at all levels of government who wake up literally every day thinking, what are they going to do to really advance climate solutions? So much has changed for the better that's brought us to this cusp of this big victory. And again, we will, of course, keep fighting because there will be so much more progress needed.
I love that power that comes from the diversity and the coalition that you put together. And that's a message, certainly, that, and a lesson that we can all learn in public health. And I would love to, and we'll maybe do another podcast on this, but to really dig into, you have extraordinary opposition. There are lessons learned in how do you bifurcate the industry. It's not monolithic. You were able to pull off certain energy sectors to work with you. Different business communities have joined you. There are all different kinds of ways to come at this that are continued lessons that we have to do. So as part of that lesson building and public health wanting to do its part to be more effective and engaged in protecting people and protecting our planet, I know there are more steps here. We learned from the Affordable Health Care Act that it's not enough to get the legislation passed, that you got to stay in the fight to make sure it gets implemented properly, that people understand why it's so important. So what's next for you?
Well, thanks for asking. And we absolutely have to stay in the fight. We've got to get this over the finish line. We're confident and optimistic about getting it through the House and then having it signed by the president. And then you referenced implementation. certainly the way that this bill is implemented and getting resources and investments out, especially when it comes to environmental justice, but across the board, doing that quickly and effectively is going to be so important. The climate crisis and the public health crisis that we face is also so massive that we will need to continue to fight on all fronts. So there's so much that the Biden-Harris administration can do through executive action, through the Environmental Protection Agency, through the Department of Energy, the Department of Interior, and more. And so we're really going to urge them to increase the scope and the ambition of what they're doing through executive action. We have been really excited about the progress that has been made to advance clean energy at the state and local level. And so we will really continue to double down on state and local progress. And of course, since I work at the League of Conservation Voters, voters is our last name, we do focus on electing more environmental champions to office at all levels of government. So again, this is a big, big day, but we will get right back to work because that will be so necessary and that will continue.
Well, I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your persistence and tireless efforts to get this bill to happen. We all need it. The planet needs it. And maybe someday we'll also have it be the League of Conservation and Public Health Voters. We want to join you, Tiernan.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Shelley. Great to talk with you.
Great talking with you, Tiernan. Keep it up.
Thank you. Take care.
Public Health on Call is produced by Joshua Sharfstein, Lindsay Smith Rogers, and Stephanie Desmond. Audio production by J.B. Arbogast, Holly Cardinell, Spencer Greer, and Matthew Martin, with support from Chip Hickey. Distribution by Nick Moran. Production support from Catherine Ricardo. Social media run by Grace Holes Fernandez and Amber Bryan Singletary. Thank you for listening.